Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Lettermen Row. We're going to react to the college football playoff rankings as they come out. We're going to react to Ohio State's spot in the college football playoff as that is revealed. We're going to react to the opponent that the Buckeyes are going to face as it is revealed. We'll be on here for about 10, 20, maybe 25 minutes to a half hour, just depending on how long we need to be. Ryan Day is going to speak at 2 o'clock to preview the opponent for the first time and talk about the Buckeyes being in the college football playoff. Here's what we do know. Ohio State is in the college football playoff. They will be in the playoff. And in all likelihood, unless something crazy happens and the committee decides to completely blow up the rankings and redo them and deem Ohio State worse than it was last week, even after the loss of Michigan when the Buckeyes didn't play, Ohio State will be hosting a home game in the college football playoff. Now, seating-wise, we don't know. Tim May, the 41-year vet, is going to join me, Spencer Holbrook, in just a minute. We're going to talk about a lot of things in the next 10 minutes in the lead up to the college football playoff rankings, and we're going to give some predictions on what we think will happen. Then when the things actually come out and it's official, we will break down a little bit of what we think this matchup will be like, how Ohio State can advance into the quarterfinal. We know that the Buckeyes do not have a bye. We also know that Tim May, the 41-year vet, is a legend in his own like, and now he joins me on the other side of that screen. Tim, it is time. We're 10 minutes from the college football playoff bracket reveal. I'm really excited. What is your excitement level here? Because this is obviously a new era for college football.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you have no dog in the fight, this is kind of drama at its highest in terms of a seeding for a college football playoff tournament. And we all know where we think Ohio State. We all think Ohio State can still host a game in this thing. Last night, things were topsy-turvy. I got a little excited when I saw SMU come back the way it did against Clemson. I thought it showed a lot of fight. Thought it showed it belonged in the tournament. Dabo Swinney said the same thing, but of course, he had just escaped the he had just escaped the gallows by the hair on his chin. But then I started thinking about it, and people have talked me off that ledge. Well, if you're going to put SMU in ahead of Alabama, which only has one more loss than SMU, you got to take into account who they didn't play and all this stuff. And I started thinking, yeah, that's right. But is that really right that you can get into the tournament no matter how with 3 losses if you didn't win your conference championship, didn't even play for it? So I think the committee's dealing with a lot of these same questions that we're dealing with. I mean, where's Arizona State fit in this whole thing, right? Is Arizona State get a first-round bye? Yeah, exactly. Up behind Boise State, right? So it's very interesting that Boise State not wormed its way, ran its way with Ashton Jeanty into this consideration. And I'm not sure whether I would have Boise State ahead of Arizona State based on what I saw in the playoffs or the championship games over the weekend. But the committee will deem that. But if you're 3rd or 4th, who cares? You're in the tournament and you've got to bye.
Well, one of them is going to be angry because the 3rd seed is going to go to that Fiesta Bowl. Arizona State would love to stay in Arizona and play in that Fiesta Bowl. And Boise State would love to not have to go to the Peach Bowl and play in Atlanta. One of them is going to be mad about that. That's not what we're here to talk about, though, Tim. We're here to talk about Ohio State. In my opinion, and I'll set you up for this, in my opinion, Ohio State, as we get closer to the bracket reveal, should be the 6th seed. It should be Notre Dame as the 5 with the 1 loss in the regular season. Of course, it's to Northern Illinois, but Notre Dame's looked really good since then, 10 straight wins. Notre Dame should be the 5 seed. Yes, Texas and Penn State both entered the conference championship game with 1 loss. Yep. They leave it with 2 losses, and neither of them have a win to hang their hat on, or in Texas's case, cowboy hat. Have a win to hang their hat on. And Ohio State has 2 wins, including one over Penn State at Penn State. Ohio State, in my opinion, should be the 6th seed. I believe Ohio State will be the 8th seed. Now, could the committee split the baby here and have Texas as the 6, Ohio State as the 7, and Penn State as the 8? They could, and then you could have Ohio State playing the 10 seed. I don't see a world in which a team with the same amount of losses as Ohio State and a home loss to Ohio State can be ranked ahead of Ohio State, even if that second loss came in the conference championship game. But this committee and all the other committees just do what they want. And so I could see why it's going to happen that way. I think Ohio State will be the 8 seed against Tennessee in the horseshoe, but I could see a path for them to be the 7 seed. I'm not sure if Ohio State will be the 6 seed, even though I think they should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's all confusing because, on the one hand, you could have them putting Penn State over Ohio State because Penn State played the extra game, played the extra jeopardy, and played really good in that game. And then you could have them justifying putting Penn State where they put Penn State, even though it lost that game. And then, like I said, leaving SMU out because it lost its game in dramatic fashion. You know what I mean? Its conference championship game. I mean, that's the vagaries of a committee and how they have to do these things. Eventually, they have to get down to 12. Somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. In regards to Ohio State, it makes a lot of sense that Ohio State would be above the team it beat, but then Ohio State got beat by an unranked, average at best Michigan team. So you've got that going, and Ward Manuel, he spoke on the rivalry thing last week and how much import they do kind of throw on the fact that anything can happen in a rivalry. Just ask Georgia and Georgia Tech. I mean, that's how close Georgia was, and Georgia could have lost that game and still be in the college football playoff and be one of the teams getting a bye today. That's how crazy all the criteria are, because there is no tried and true criteria because everybody doesn't play everybody. And so do I think Ohio State belongs in ahead of Penn State? I do, because they did win the head-to-head at Penn State. I do believe that. Do I believe Ohio State should host a first-round game? I do, despite what happened a week ago in their rivalry game. That can happen. But I think you can justify any one of these scenarios. And like I said, when Texas and when Texas gets beat, where does that Plinko thing go? You've seen Plinko in the Japanese game parlors. Where does Texas fall to? Right on down the line. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they sort all this out, because you got the idea too that Ohio State at, what was it last week? 6-6. Tennessee was 7, right? I mean, that they were joined at the hip. No matter where they went, they were going to go in that order somewhere. So it makes sense that Ohio State would host Tennessee in 2 weeks. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're paying attention to us, we just talked all the way around the maypole here, trying to figure this out, because anything can come out of the committee's final meeting.
Yeah, Tim, I am, for the record, while people are watching, I am publishing stories about this as they happen at lettermenrow.com. So if I look a little out of it, it's because I'm currently watching the bracket reveal, getting ready to start on my phone. Tim is going to hear it when I say it, because he does not have TV in his room where he's recording. It's kind of
I've got like 100 TVs in my house, but none in my office right here.
So it's kind of a fun way that we're going to be doing this. The other thing that's crazy is the only time that I can remember that Ohio State truly felt like it was going to be in and they knew exactly where they were going was in 2022, when USC lost on a Friday night, which paved the way for Ohio State to get in the Peach Bowl.
Yep.
Normally, Ohio State doesn't know where it's going at all, but the Peach Bowl representatives were in the building on Sunday when the bracket was revealed. So it was very clear where Ohio State was going. Now, in 2019, when Ohio State was just dominant, they did not know which bowl game they were going to.
Nope.
They wanted to go to the Fiesta Bowl, and they ended up going to the Fiesta Bowl, but they weren't sure because they didn't know what seed they would be. They ended up being, I believe, the 2 seed. Clemson was the 3, LSU was the 1. It's another one of these things. 2022, again, is the only year I remember where Ohio State knew where it was going and what the seeding was going to be. They knew they were going to be the 4. And in 2014, they certainly didn't know they were going to be the 4.
No.
This is one of the years where when you find out at home what seed Ohio State is getting and who the opponent is, Ohio State will also find out. And I know that a lot of people say, well, ESPN already knows the bracket reveal, even though that every year they say, we don't know it until you see it too. We don't know what the graphics team knows. That is real. Just for the folks at home, like nobody knows except for the playoff committee and the people who make the graphics at ESPN, who I'm sure have many, many legal NDAs that they've made sure to sign.
Yeah.
We have no idea. And so this is all going to happen in real time. We're getting ready to get started. The ESPN countdown clock says it's going to start in 30 seconds. This is really exciting, Tim. It's a new era of college football. The 12-team playoff, I think it should have been expanded to 16, get rid of the conference championship games. I could hear an argument either way. Regardless, it's a new playoff system, and it's just – I'm so excited for this, man. It's going to be awesome to see this reveal for the first time in the 12-team era.
Yeah. Well, calm yourself down a little bit, as we go here. But number two, it's like there is so much mystery in this to a certain extent and it's based on, it's almost not based on if you're in and who you play in 2 weeks. It's who you then play, a week and a half, 2 weeks later. I mean, that's it's not just on whether you're in, but what part of the bracket are you in, which helps decide your fate. And, let's face it, if Ohio State is 8 and Tennessee 9, Ohio State hosts Tennessee, who does Ohio State play the next week? It's a guaranteed rematch with Oregon in the Rose Bowl. So, because you got to figure Oregon is going to the Rose Bowl. So, past that, it's not just where you're in, but the path they put you on to get to the national championship game. And boy, you'd be really stupid to take it more than one step at a time, though, on this ladder, man. I'm telling you, it's going to be an interesting tournament, because we all see that literally everybody's going to make this field. And I would even count Clemson in this statement, just for the fun of it, is capable of beating anybody else in the field if they get their, if they have their game and the other team doesn't. I know that's mamby-pamby. Like, you can say that about everybody. Well, that's what I'm saying. You can say it about everybody. Clemson, just when you counted them out last night, blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. They get a kickoff return and a nice pass, and a kid kicks the longest field goal in ACC championship history. A guy, a kind of a local hero there, kicks the winning field goal 56 yards, and they're in the field. I mean, it's crazy how it can go, and SMU is left in limbo. So, yeah, it's going to be fun these next several moments.
Tim, real quick, last thing before we actually get the bracket, and then it'll be a little bit of dead air here while I reveal this and we get to talking about this.
Yeah.
Is SMU in or is Alabama in, real quick?
I think SMU's in. That's what I would call it. They got 2 losses, and they're a really cool team to watch. But never second guess the blue blood brand, baby. Everybody loves to pick on Alabama, and the committee knows it. And that's good. That's good for ratings.
Yeah, I think SMU is going to get in. In the first half, it did not appear that way. I thought Alabama was going to be in with 3 losses, which really kind of sucks.
But as a guy pointed out to me, what did SMU do? They had a great comeback against a so-so Clemson team. You know what I mean? But Alabama lost to Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. Alabama got drilled by who was it? Oklahoma, a so-so mediocre Oklahoma team. There are all kinds of reasons why SMU should be in my opinion, no matter their schedule.
All right, where is Ohio State seated, and who are they playing?
I think based on what I'm just feeling my gut, I'm thinking it's 8 versus 9. I think it's Ohio State versus Tennessee in Ohio Stadium. What's your gut?
I'm going to go 7 versus 10 against Clemson.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Because
both of those are. I don't think Texas is going to fall, for example, below Ohio State. Just even though they didn't play anybody, they didn't beat anybody. Well, Texas A&M was a somebody, but they didn't really beat anybody and lost to Georgia twice, right? So, and Georgia's got, sitting there with 2 losses is going to be, sitting in the catbird seat. But I could see that. It just depends on what they think about Penn State and Texas after last night.
Yeah, I'm just very curious. Obviously, Ohio State has the head-to-head against Penn State. So,
yeah,
we're finding out as we do it.
Yeah. Georgia did go obviously to number 2 in the AP poll, which makes sense, So they would be your number 2 seed, you would think, for all kinds of reasons, including I give it up to them. They did play a hell of a schedule, but Kirby Smart took that shot at Greg Sankey and the administrators of the SEC last night on the podium. That was pretty funny too, about the schedule they saddled them with. Basically, he was saying they're due a rest after playing this schedule. And I kind of agree with him a little bit, because you know what? As much as we make a big deal about their them having to come back and go 8 overtimes to beat Georgia Tech. They beat Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech had them on the ropes a couple of times and couldn't put them away. And then against Texas, same thing. They beat Texas. No matter how that game went down, they found a way to win. Just like the 2002 Ohio State Buckeyes found ways to win. They went 14-0, but they could have been, at the end of the regular season, 8-4. Maybe even worse based on that season. But they found ways to win. There's something to be said for that. Clemson, with his back against the wall, found a way to win last night. So there's a lot of these teams are quite capable, my man.
Yeah. There is, and it's all over our comments, and it's on social media. Brett McMurphy of the Action Network is reporting. Sources tell him that breaking SMU is in and Alabama is out. Of course, that sucks. I wish that leak wouldn't have happened because I like watching the bracket reveal and getting that, and reacting to it. But that's
we'll see. We'll see if in fact that's true, right? I mean, sometimes things get out and they're not true. So go ahead.
Alabama has now been removed from the boards on the odds to win the national championship. So we're getting some of this in real time, while ESPN just has Nick Saban blabber on instead of the bracket.
Has he said BS yet again?
No, I don't know. It's on mute because I'm trying to talk here and I'm trying to do this. We're doing this at the exact same time that everyone is learning, apparently, except for Brett.
Yeah, so, exactly. But I mean, that is, in my opinion, the way it should have gone down. And I think that's a strike. That's a strike for the other conferences other than the SEC and the Big Ten. That if in fact that turns out to be true, and it sounds like you said, if they've taken them off the board, Alabama off the board. I mean, those guys, as we well know more than anybody usually. But SMU is deserving. Their quarterback is dynamic. That drive to tie the game last night in the last several minutes was just textbook. And the clutch way SMU came to that tying drive was just amazing to watch. And so I give it up to him. And like I said, but then you go back and you got to put Clemson somewhere, right? And so that was what SMU and everybody else was worried about for SMU's sake. But I'm just glad to see sort of an upstart SMU. It's hard to call them an upstart considering the death penalty of the 1980s and what all they did back then. This is really a moment for them to have a parade because they have climbed all the way back into the mainstream major college consciousness, just like they were before they got nailed for the Pony Express and everything else that went on down there in the 70s and 80s. So, if in fact it holds true, good for SMU for finding a way back, including ponying up just to get into the ACC. Their own alums, et cetera, backers, getting them into the financial realm of the NIL so they can acquire players and be a major factor again. I'm impressed. I mean, I used to go see them play Baylor once every other year when I was in the Royal Ambassadors in the Baptist Church down in Texas, in East Texas. And I saw Jerry Levias get his collarbone broken at Baylor. But Hayden Fry, was the head coach then. Hayden Fry helped integrate the Southwest Conference. This is like in the late 60s. So SMU's got a lot going for it from a historical standpoint, a tradition standpoint. And if they are indeed in, good for them.
Yeah, well, many folks are telling me that Nick Saban is, putting the act on trying to get Alabama into this playoff, and I don't think he's
really.
I don't think he's, obviously he's an Alabama employee. He has every right to do that. Whatever.
No, I was acting like I was fake surprised.
Yeah, he can do that. That's fine.
The bottom legacy.
The bottom line is, Alabama's probably going to be in the ReliaQuest Bowl or whatever bowl game that they'll take them, but they're not. I don't think they're going to be in the college football playoff, which is great news.
Well, but let me tell you, a lot of bowl games would love to have Alabama. I mean, they bring a crowd. They are a traditional powerhouse, and they had their slip ups this year. But when you lose on the road to Vanderbilt and got beat, I mean, this wasn't a shot in the dark. Got beat and then get thumped. They got thumped by Oklahoma. I mean, an average Oklahoma team. You don't belong in the college football playoff.
Yeah,
I think you agree with me on that.
Yeah, I do agree. I'm I'm kind of dumbfounded here, Tim, that they're showing highlights of championship games and still debating this things. The results are in. Like there's
Yeah,
not.
let's
We
see them.
don't. Well, let's see the damn thing. I want to
Let's
break
see
it
the
down.
bracket. Yeah.
I don't. You know. I don't care what anybody says about it anymore, other than the results. And I just.
You know what I was glad about though about the playoff games or the championship games. Everybody got to see Scatterboo, man. That guy, he's kind of the running back version of the tight end from Penn State. Just what a show that guy put on in Vanderbilt. I mean, in Arizona State just ran roughshod finally over Iowa State. So I'm just curious where Arizona State ends up in all this because it's just I do you and I both believe what they'll be 3 or 4. They'll probably be 4 behind Boise State. But then Ashton Genty went out like a man, like a man's man. I mean, with the way he played for Boise State in that conference championship game, but they kind of held on at the end, didn't score in the second half. So I'm really curious about what the committee thought about that because, despite what they're saying, you clearly can enhance your reputation in the conference championship games when you win them. And we saw that happen with Ohio State way back in 2014. And I'm sure we're going to see some version of that in some form or fashion in the next several minutes.
Yeah, Tim, who do you think Boise State is going to get that 3 seed, or do you think Arizona State's going to get that 3 seed? Do you think Boise is going to be the 4? Clemson,
based on what I saw, my 3 seed would be Arizona State because I thought their win was much more impressive. I mean, UNLV. I know Utah State beat Boise State beat UNLV, but I just thought Arizona State's victory was more impressive, just on how thoroughly it just physically and occasionally snookered their way to that lopsided Big 12 championship win. And I would still put the Big 12 over Boise State's conference in terms of toughness, et cetera, whatever you want to judge it on. So I would give it to Arizona State, but that's just me talking. I don't think 3 and 4, if you're in, you're in, you're beating your chest. So it doesn't really matter, but it does matter bragging rights wise when you go out recruiting, et cetera.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arizona State's going to get that 3 seed. I think they're going to bump Boise to the 4.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, who cares, right? 5, I guess Notre Dame deserves the 5, but man, I would still have problems with that Northern Illinois loss, even though it was very early in the season. But they did thump people along the way, including Army. And I think Army, has just been disregarded. But Army had a hell of a conference championship victory over the weekend, and that's a really good football team. I think a lot of people wouldn't want to play, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you're correct. It is what it is.
I didn't mean to be so glib there.
I would give Arizona State the 3 and let them be in Arizona for their bowl game.
Well, see, that's what people don't remember. I mean, well, maybe people remember it. I remember growing up in the 80s or 70s watching Arizona State teams with that John Jefferson, one of the great wide receivers. He went on to the San Diego Chargers back then, but one of the great wide receivers ever catching balls. And, they started the Fiesta Bowl long ago to boost Arizona State nationally because they could never get into a bowl game or a bowl game of repute. And they started that bowl game almost solely to promote Arizona State and Frank Cush and all those guys, coaching. And it paid off for them and got them into the mainstream. And so it would be interesting if they make this field for it to be there in their first game to be in the Fiesta Bowl. It's almost poetic, apropos, whatever you want to call it. But I'm sure they'll take any bowl game at this point.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking if it is Ohio State 8 and Tennessee 9, how that Rose Bowl could look if Ohio State gets past Tennessee. And of course, we know with Ohio State, nothing's a given, right, with this team. But you got to figure they understand it's a brand new season. I know they understand. I wrote a little story about that for us over the weekend that the team more than anybody else has probably moved on from that loss to Michigan better than anyone. And they understand their major goal, their ultimate goal is still in play. And I think the committee, by rating them 6 even last week, understands how good this Ohio State team is. And I think the coaches on that committee understand that. So we'll see where it falls. And you have to take into account that they won at Penn State and the way they won at Penn State with the goal line stand and then the great drive right down Penn State's gut, just running the ball. That has to linger with you no matter what you saw in the rivalry game, because we all know weird stuff happens in rivalry games. I mean, just ask Alabama from Auburn many years ago when Alabama, got into the the college football playoff, having lost by almost 2 touchdowns to Auburn in 2017, if I remember correctly, and they end up winning it all. They didn't even play for the SEC championship, but ended up winning the national championship. Stuff happens in rivalry games. I think the committee, Ward Manuel sitting there, he understands that. The athletic director at Michigan, who, by the way, has gotten a new contract, it looks like. So, but the bottom line is, everybody understands that, what can happen in rivalry games. But final analysis, how many losses do you have, right? And that still weighs heavily.
Yeah, and then if you have the same amount of losses, but you have a head-to-head win on the road at the other team that has the same amount of losses.
Yes. Yeah. But
you should probably
the other team had its loss in your conference championship game. So, and they can say they disregard the conference championship game. I think you're mainly saying that more for the losers than the winners. It looks like, obviously, because they always regard it for the winners. I mean, Georgia, is going to have a bye in the first round, right?
Yeah.
Now I know, because they won their conference championship. They still got 2 losses.
Yeah, like Ryan Day said about the rivalry game, to the winner goes the spoils.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the way it ought to. Hey, it's the way it ought to be, my man. You can't play everybody, so you finally do have to have a committee to sort it all out. And I think that committee is diverse enough, the way I've looked at it, diverse enough to really kind of have a feel for it. And somebody's feelings are going to get hurt without a doubt today. But that's the way it is if you don't go undefeated.
Well, I know whose feelings I would hurt. So that would be Alabama. I'm just excited, for them to get shut out and on the wrong side of this thing for once. It is kind of nice, to have that. It feels good because I think, this is a good example for the committee to set, not a precedent, but nobody's safe. And 9-3 doesn't get you in just because other teams have lost. You can beat your chest about the SEC all you want. The bottom line is you lost 3 conference games. 2 of them were to 6-win teams. If you win just one of those, they can excuse one. They won't excuse 2.
Yeah. And that's a good way of looking at it. I mean,
it's clear though, because they're excusing an Ohio State loss to a bad team. They're excusing, an upset here or there. They're excusing that Texas played poorly against Vanderbilt. They excuse that Georgia needed 8-9 overtimes to beat, decent Georgia Tech team. They're even excusing Notre Dame's embarrassing loss to a middling MAC program that didn't even sniff the MAC title game.
Yeah,
which was, by the way, won by the Ohio Bobcats.
I heard about that. I heard that was in all the papers. But there are still a few papers out there. It was in all of them. But that was a great win. That was a major league thumping. Methodical major league thumping. So, it's just, I just wish they'd get on with this thing and let us know who's where and doing what. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm getting a little, I know it's a TV show and they're looking for ratings. So I would think by now you've got your ratings, you're 15 minutes in, right?
Correct. But, we get a Workday commercial and a brand power commercial, and we'll probably get some sort of new medicinal product that they'll have to show us, and then they'll bring it back and let Kirk and Saban talk a little bit more about things that we already expect and things we've been discussing for the last 14 hours. It's all fun, Tim.
Let me ask you this though. I saw somebody's projection on a bracket that had Army in instead of SMU. What do you think about that? I mean, you could definitely make a case for that, couldn't you?
I mean, you could, but they won't.
Yeah.
I think I think 6 or 7, and this isn't even a joke, 6 or 7 of Army's wins came against teams who have fired their head coaches. It's kind of crazy.
That's a good point.
They a lot of casualties when you go against the Army.
Yeah. But I want to ask you this. I mean, before we get our deals.
Yeah, because we're getting it here.
Okay, who had a top 4? Who had a top 4 at the beginning of the year of Oregon, Georgia, Arizona State, and Boise State as the 4 getting the buys?
Yeah,
I would. Maybe somebody had that. I didn't have it.
Well, nobody in the Big 12 media had it because they had Arizona State
finished it last.
What we like to call it when we watch golf, DFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dead effing last.
Yeah. Did not make the cut.
Yeah. So they had Arizona State last out of 16 teams.
Yeah.
And
well, that just shows you, man. Ohio State in 2002 was coming off what, an 8-5 year, 7-5 year, whatever it was, 8-4 year, and won it all and went undefeated. So, college football teams can change from year to year drastically, especially now when it all comes together for you. And we've seen 2 Ohio State teams win national championships in 2002 and 2014 that pretty much did just that, got their act together at the right time and won games. And there you go. I mean, you get beat by Virginia Tech in 2014, you look all but out of it, and then you claw your way back into the tournament by hook or crook, and boom, there you go. So what's showing up on the bracket? Anything yet?
They're explaining how this thing works.
Oh, they are. Which you turn the key and the car comes on. That's what they should be saying.
Which I will tell you, Tim, I'm glad that they're explaining it while people are watching, because there have been quite a few times this year where somebody has mentioned, that 2 Big Ten teams could get a bye. And then we have to say, like, no, that's not a thing. Could the SEC get 2 of the first round buys? No.
No.
So there are people who don't do this for a living, who don't have the time to track it, which the bracket's coming up right now. And Oregon's going to be the number 1 seed. I already know that, and they should just go ahead and get that out of the way right now.
Yeah.
There are people who don't understand how this works. Yep, Oregon number 1. We knew that. I would assume the Rose Bowl.
After sitting in first round, I mean, that makes sense. It's a good Oregon team, man. We all know that. We saw them live and in person.
Georgia is 2.
Georgia 2, no surprise.
Yeah. So, again, I mean, we're getting this thing in real time. So this is
Georgia going to their backup quarterback. He actually played better than Carson Beck did. That was huge.
Very well.
Yeah.
He didn't play well, but
he played better than Carson Beck did, in my opinion. And number 3, if they'd lost that game, it was going to be a Florida State situation. Of course, it would have been their 3rd loss too. They wouldn't have, in my opinion, belonged in the playoff anyway. But it is what it is now. They showed a lot of moxie when they had to. Moxie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Georgia with his backup quarterback, I think he had 71 passing yards and that horrendous interception.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued because that Carson Beck injury looked bad. I'm intrigued to see how good the Dogs are in the playoff without their quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
but Scatterboo. I've got him on my brain right now. I thought Stockton. I thought in the overtime period he made a couple of plays that were huge, and then Carson Beck goes in and hands off for the winning score. So I thought when they really needed Stockton, they got it. They got it from him.
Boise, the 3 seed.
There you go. They stuck with their book, didn't they?
Wow.
Arizona State number 4, right? Don't you figure?
I mean, Arizona State or Clemson. Clemson beat a higher ranked team.
But that would be quite the rise for them from where they were just a week ago in the
and they have a 3rd loss compared to Arizona State's just got 2 losses.
Yeah.
Here's the 4 seed. Here it is. Man.
Drum roll. Wow. Drum roll, please.
I think it's Arizona State.
So there you go. That's the way it ought to be, brother.
Arizona State gets the 4th seed and the bye. Now
Did
they
you already
just
stick them in there? Did you already stick those teams in their respective bowl games too? Did they show that?
it doesn't show that, but we do know Oregon will go to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
We do know that Georgia will go to the Sugar Bowl because of the bowl tie-ins. They are keeping the bowl tie-ins.
Right.
They Boise State, I believe, with the Peach Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl are the ones that are confusing to me. But I don't think the Big 12 has a Fiesta Bowl tie-in. So I do not know if Arizona State automatically goes there or if they will get shipped out to the Peach Bowl, which, if Arizona State gets like Clemson in the Peach Bowl in the second round, I mean, that's just like, that ain't right. I think we're getting the 5 seed right now.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. And I see McLovin in the comments saying nobody cares. He's a Michigan fan. You're watching. Thanks for watching because you're getting us paid. So I appreciate it.
There you go, baby.
So it's kind of nice.
So Hawaii, is he showing his Hawaii driver's license?
The 25-year-old Hawaiian organ donor.
Yeah. This is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they're really milking this thing with I don't know if they're going to show the 5 or the 12 first. Clemson is the 12.
There you go.
Clemson is officially the 12 seed. I would imagine.
That's right, isn't it? I mean, that's right with my book.
I would have them going to South Bend.
Yeah. Another ACC, non-ACC matchup. Notre Dame without a conference, but sort of.
Okay, so Arizona State is going to the Peach Bowl.
Wow.
Clemson will play, well, unless they put they show the 11, or are they going to show the 5 who Clemson's going to play? I don't know how they're going to do this.
Yeah, this is kind of odd.
But Clemson is the 12. I would imagine. Okay, so they play Texas, the 5 seed. So Ohio State's probably going to be the 8 seed here, Tim, because Texas is the 5, which means that they're not going to drop Penn State below Ohio State, even though they're not going to honor the head-to-head, which I think is garbage. But that's
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Texas did lose, in overtime to Georgia, which is a SEC champion. I didn't think Texas would plummet for sure.
So Texas is going to have a Clemson, then Arizona State path to the semifinal, which, we've talked all season, Tim, about that 5 seed being pretty advantageous.
Yep.
And here we are on Selection Sunday, and Texas is getting that advantageous draw instead of Notre Dame, which I think is interesting.
But you finally have to take into account, but neither one of them had that, great win on their resume, right? That's what's interesting.
Yeah. Well,
unless you count Notre Dame beating Army, which I do.
Now I'm curious if it's Penn State or if it's Notre Dame at 6.
Yeah.
Because if it's Penn State is 6, so Ohio State's going to be 8.
Wow.
I mean,
well, we think. Wow.
Ohio State went to Happy Valley and beat Penn State.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, it's they did go, and then when they needed to win the game, flex their muscles. Ohio State did, but you always have to you throw yourself on the mercy of the court when you lose a game like Ohio State did against Michigan, when it was not favored, it was heavily favored and could not muster offense in the second half. Granted, Ohio State missed 2 field goals in that game, but 2 costly interceptions also in that game. And in the final analysis, when Michigan had the ball in the fourth quarter, especially the last time Michigan had the ball in the fourth quarter, I'm talking about from a major standpoint, it drove down the field and got its field goal and made a play along the way against Ohio State's defense. And that wins the game for them 13-10. And you just kind of go, okay, when you really needed to get it done on offense and finally on defense, it didn't happen. So like I say, you put yourself at the mercy of the court, and the court has spoken. So not really surprised by this, but we'll see how the rest of these play out. The rest of these seedings play out. This is a dangerous Ohio State team. We're going to hear from Ryan Day, by the way, at 2:00. You can watch it live here on LettermenRow.com when we get another press conference our second press conference with him in like 4 or 5 days.
Ohio
And
State,
what?
Ohio State's the 8.
Ohio State's number 8. And
Number 8.
We don't know number 9 yet. Is that right?
Correct. We do not know number 9 yet. I would be very, very, very surprised if it is not Tennessee.
Number 1, ladies and gentlemen, you can cancel your reservations in Knoxville. Ohio State is number 8. Ohio State is going to host a first-round game for Ohio State and for anybody else, really. First time in history where you will have games, college playoff games, played on college campuses. I'm not a big fan of northern teams hosting because I don't think that's, from a weather standpoint, good for either team in the game. But it is what it is at this point. If there's an edge to be found, I'm sure Ohio State's going to try to find it. Clearly, in the cold and breeze of the Michigan game, Ohio State couldn't get things going with its running game. The passing game was pretty good. Go ahead.
It's Tennessee. Ohio State, Tennessee is officially set in the college football playoff. Tim, your first reaction? We're going to get out of here.
My first reaction is that that's a hell of a matchup. We've been seeing it coming now for a week and a half, and Tennessee has something to prove. So does Ohio State. Tennessee is not quite the defensive team that Michigan was, at least in the game. They've got the young quarterback, Iama Leava, who is really talented and stuff, but prone to some errors. I think this shapes up is a good matchup for Ohio State in the first round. And, of course, if they win, Ohio State would have the rematch with Oregon in the Rose Bowl. So, it's kind of shaped up exactly like we thought it would. You agree, Spence?
Exactly how I thought it would. No, because I did think that they were going to honor head-to-head because the regular season still needs to matter.
No, I know, but I meant when we really ground down to it, we had a feeling it was going to be 8-9. I did, Ohio State versus Tennessee, but then you thought maybe there was a hope for something other than that.
Listen, Ohio State fans have been asking the SEC to come north for a cold weather game for decades. It's not just been years, Tim. It's been my entire life. It has been decades.
Yeah, centuries in my life. So
you are now getting that. Ohio State will host Tennessee in the college football playoff.
And the last time these guys played, Peyton Manning was a quarterback for Tennessee, and it rained. It was one of the great rain games of all time in the Citrus Bowl. And it was also cleat gate because Tennessee used cleats that were illegal to get a little bit more of a purchase on that grass field at the Citrus Bowl, and Tennessee won by a touchdown. So Ohio State fans, I'm sure, have been waiting to get even with Tennessee for a long time now. So, wow, now you got your matchup.
Tim, Indiana is going to Notre Dame in the college football playoff.
Wow. As Hayden Fry, former coach, late coach at Iowa, would say, what a surprise. The all-Indiana State playoff game. I mean, that's pretty poetic when you think about it.
So Ohio State's path is clear. It is Tennessee, then Oregon in the Rose Bowl if they beat Tennessee.
Yep.
Then one of Texas, Arizona State, or Clemson.
Yep.
And if you make that, then you win that. You're in the national championship game against the other side of the bracket. The two big dogs in the other side of the bracket are Boise State and then the actual dogs, Georgia. So that the path is there, Tim. We're going to get out of here because we're going to go to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. They're getting ready to reveal the 11 seed to play at Penn State. It's going to be SMU.
Stick with it till the 11th seed. Can you do that?
Yep, we're getting it right now. We'll see. Matchup-wise, it would be cool if Alabama had to go to Penn State, but SMU deserves it more than Alabama does, to be quite frank. And I believe they're going to they'll have the ponies in ahead. So we'll see. They're really building up the suspense. If they put Alabama in, then we just need to cancel the sport.
The last time Alabama, might not have been the last time Alabama played at Penn State, but I remember that's where Bear Bryant took the lead as the winningest coach in major college football history. And ironically, when Ohio State got beat by Joe Paterno and Penn State in 2001,
there it is.
Go ahead.
SMU.
Wow.
Penn State. Your first round matchups, Tim, are Clemson at Texas, Tennessee at Ohio State, SMU at Penn State, and Indiana at Notre Dame. Wow. The winner of Texas Clemson plays Arizona State. The winner of Ohio State Tennessee plays Oregon. The winner of SMU Penn State plays Boise, and the winner of Indiana Notre Dame will play Georgia. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet on the other side of the screen. We don't mean to scramble. We just wanted to react live. There's a lot of wows that happened in here. We wanted to react live, get some people talking. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to go to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, talk to Ryan Day and the Buckeyes about this draw. The Buckeyes, Tennessee, coming to the Horseshoe. It's going to be electric. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be cold, and it's going to be awesome. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys in just a little bit when we get some reaction from Ryan Day and the Buckeyes.